Oh, hello! Welcome back to What's Wrong with Wolfie, the pop culture podcast where we talk about all of the fun stuff from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, all the way up until right now. No more different shows in your feeds, just the cool, refreshing sound of What's Wrong with Wolfie in one simple, classic format. I'm your host, Steve, and joining me to discuss today's film is the usual group of nostalgia-addled middle-aged chuckleheads who are now going to introduce themselves to you by saying their names in a predetermined order.
Hello, I'm Rich.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason.
Fantastic. Thanks, chaps. Let's get right into speaking effusively about a film which is, in my opinion, impossible to hate. A film that recently turned 20 years old, which makes me feel incredibly ancient. It's the British rom-com classic, Shaun of the Dead.
Please pay attention. This message is for your own safety. Our nation is in crisis. A state of emergency has been declared. Should you find your safety compromised,
it is vital that you do not panic.
Oh, for God's sake! Oh, he's got armor! Try to avoid detection.
2 seconds.
Use weapons to defend yourself.
No, that's the second half I ever bought!
Purple rain.
No.
Sign of the times.
Definitely not.
Oh, Dire Straits. Throw it.
And remember,
The attackers can be stopped by removing the head or destroying the brain.
right.
No, that's rubbish. Any zombies out there? Don't say that. No. Because it's ridiculous. I'm coming! Here I come!
Are you alright?
Oh, thank God for that.
2004's Shaun of the Dead, directed by Edgar Wright, tells the story of a late 20s man living in London whose life has become stagnant and repetitive. He's surrounded himself with the comforts of youth and sticks to his familiar but uneventful habits of drinking too much, staying up late, dicking around with his childhood friend, and resisting the burgeoning responsibilities of adulthood at the cost of his relationship with his girlfriend Liz. It takes a zombie apocalypse for him to realise how much he's taken for granted in his life, and he finally decides to step up to get Liz back, while trying to save his friends and family from being eaten alive, with mixed success. Now, this film holds a very special place in my heart. It comes off the back of Simon Pegg and Jessica Stevenson's Channel 4 TV show Spaced, which I absolutely adored at the time, and still do, directed by Edgar Wright as well. It's sort of a spiritual successor to Space, although it doesn't share any of the same story or characters. So yeah, I absolutely love this film. Jason, did you ever see Spaced at all?
I kind of knew of Spaced at the time of this film's release, but I hadn't seen it. And I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why I hadn't seen it, because from what I'd heard about it, it seemed right up my street. Especially around this time, like early 2000s, the kind of stuff that Spaced delved into still seemed to be quite geeky, quite nerdy, and at that time being geeky and nerdy was still something to be taking the mick out of. So you never really kind of saw that kind of stuff on primetime telly, and I kind of always kind of kicked myself that I hadn't seen Space.
You could still watch it. You could still watch it.
I mean, I did remedy it. I did buy the box set, the DVD box set, and then I did watch it later on, like after Shaun of the Dead. And stuff.
Did you get the special edition Star Wars packaging?
Oh, I did.
Yes,
I did.
That was
I still have mine.
Yeah,
20 years later.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I got around to it eventually. So it's a wonderful TV show, and all the chemistry and all the just them knowing each other so well really carried over well into Shaun of the Dead.
Totally, for sure. And it makes seeing Jessica Stevenson turn up. Was she Jessica Hines by the time this film came out? I don't know what the timeline on that is. But when she turns up in this film, yes, it's a delight. Little special moment there between them both. Rich, you've seen Spaced, right? I mean, I think we've all seen it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's weird because I feel like I wasn't watching it properly when it was actually being broadcast, but I must have seen some of it in passing. I loved what I saw, and then I think at some point I just got the DVD box set of both seasons, and it was one of those ones where I would just watch it over and over. Like this was kind of like that peak era of DVD as well. I think it wasn't just the fact you're watching this show that you loved, but it was such like a treasure trove of like special features and commentaries, extras.
Yeah.
Yeah, something now that is just lost to time. Like we don't get to have that, regardless of whether it's because physical media's gone off the boil or not. It's just the effort that went into that kind of stuff. And when it was a show that there was so much love put into it, and it kind of spoke to you at that time of your life. I mean, for me at least, I was probably like a little bit younger than like Tim and Daisy, but yeah, I love the reverence to it, all the references to video games. I mean, I still think about that episode where it's pretty much just following Tim playing Resident Evil 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I don't know what it is about that particular bit. I absolutely adore that show. Like, I really do. And I've not gone back and watched it in a long, long time. So I feel like it's kind of
I'm due a
due.
rewatch. Yeah.
Absolutely.
My partner's never seen Spaced, so we're definitely due a rewatch. That episode loosely inspired Shaun of the Dead in the first place. They did that because that episode zombies appear like Tim's like drug addled, right? And they filmed that and they were like, we should make a zombie film, and then they did. With Shaun of the Dead. So yeah, Chris, obviously you've seen Spaced as well by the sounds of it.
At this point, again, like me and Rich being the same age, it would have been 99, 2000. I was probably I was a massive movie nerd. And I found my groove. I was watching films while everyone else was doing teenage stuff. And I was like, no, I'm going to... And I remember vividly catching one of these episodes of this show on a Friday night, and it sold me straight away. They made a movie reference, and I got it. And I was like, wait a minute. What? And I recognised Simon Pegg from Big Train.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right? From the year before, I believe, or 2 years before. And I was like, wait, this show's for me. And it happened to be a double bill on Friday night on Channel 4, like 2 episodes back to back. And I'm pretty sure it was a rerun because I wasn't really aware of it on broadcast, at least the first season. Because there was a break of, I think, a year or 2 between 2 series.
Something like that, yeah.
And then when Series 2 came out, it was highly publicised. And I was right there day one, Channel 4, VHS recorder in the bedroom, so I recorded them. And like you guys, it holds a special place in my heart because it finally was a show that spoke to me. And on a very ethereal, spiritual level, not like the Big Bang Theory kids, you shouldn't be watching that show. You shouldn't be watching that show. Watch something like this where it's done cleverly.
Absolutely,
and soulfully, and just the visual gags alone. Even now, I introduced my wife to it when we first met in 2003, and she had never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got together, I brought a DVD set around to her flat, and she was like, "This is great." But even now, as a 40-year-old man, I see more gags that I've completely missed over the years.
Yeah, I bet.
And that is such a rewarding thing that Edgar Wright made it, and the writers and producers made it so layered that they got the attention and the traction to 3 years later to headline a major film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Edgar Wright really, really cut his teeth on that TV show. He's all over that thing. And you can see his editing style is there immediately from the start of that show.
It's just crazy.
It's great stuff, and like you say, it's incredibly dense. Not unlike Shaun of the Dead, which is also incredibly dense.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually see Shaun of the Dead in the cinema when it came out because 20 years ago I weirdly didn't like horror films. In particular, I didn't like zombie films, which is weird to say now because I love horror now. But back then, I was like, zombie films are too bleak for me. I don't want to watch them. And I actually kind of thought my favorite people from space in a zombie film actually sounds kind of depressing and bleak, and I really didn't like the idea at all. But I regretted not going because people would come back from the cinema and talk about how great it was. So I saw it as soon as I could when it was released on a home format, and realized the error of my ways, because it's immediately became one of my favorite films ever. Did you guys see this in the cinema, Rich?
Yeah, I see. This film actually holds a bit of a record, and I saw it twice in the cinema in 12 hours. I literally saw it the evening, the day it came out that evening. Then I went the next morning at like a 10 a.m. screening. Never done that before, not done that since. Just went with a different mate, and yeah, I was so up for it. No, I loved it. I absolutely loved seeing it back to back. Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I mean, going into this, obviously, yeah, I was carrying that fandom, that love for space, but this, obviously, I think up to this point, I mean, I go on record as saying I'm a massive, massive, massive zombie fan. Like, love the whole subgenre. So I feel like up to this point, we weren't really getting much stuff. It was a case of watching old Romero films. And then this film basically, I think it started with Shaun, but this was like the beginning of like basically a 12-month block where we had this, the Dawn of the Dead remake from Zack Snyder, and then we had like George Romero's Land of the Dead, all from Universal as well. So thanks, Universal. Yeah, we were eating good, like eating really good.
So are zombies.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, that was kind of a mad time, actually. Like, there was a bit of a resurgence of zombie stuff.
And I think Edgar Wright was a bit like on edge about it, because I think when they started filming Shaun of the Dead, they were like, well, there hasn't been a zombie film in years. And that was, I think, one of the reasons why they went for it. Only for then, while they're filming all these other zombie films coming around the same time.
And it was kind of bittersweet after that as well, because I think with that like triple threat of like zombie films, it led to like even now we're still getting stuff, and there is a lot of good and there's a lot of bad, and even some of the stuff that came from Romero was mixed. Like I love Land that came afterwards, but yeah, it was a bit diminishing returns. But I still thank this film for essentially kickstarting that, and it was just. I think what I love about this film is that the thing that appeals to me most about this is it's not a comedy, it's not a parody played at the expense of zombies. This plays like a legitimate zombie film. You feel the threat, and all the themes are there, like just how characters can be complacent, and that's what makes the zombies dangerous, is that complacency. And it never feels like zombies are just a joke. It's a comedy happening within a zombie film. Everything around our characters is legitimate, and I love that. The respect it plays to like the genre is just like brilliant. That comes from a fan, and yeah, so that's what I would love about this film.
The complacency is like in a way, this is a film about complacency, because everyone is complacent before the zombies even appear, and everyone is sort of already a zombie before there's a zombie apocalypse. And as you say, it's the complacent ones that get got in a zombie film. Chris, did you see this in the cinema?
No, I was probably second year of college at this point, and it completely passed me by. I knew it was out. I'd seen the trailers, and for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe college years are a bit of a blur, you know. I never made it to cinema. However, we did go a few years later to see Hot Fuzz, obviously, and I'm looking forward to in 2 weeks' time the 20th re-release that we booked tickets for. And again, my wife and my entire family loved this film, including the kids and my brother-in-law. And we quite often will have it on in the background at one of our houses, just laughing our asses off. And especially my two eldest nieces, who are now, oh God, Christ, get this, 20 and 19. And they love it, and they quote it as they're going, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in 2 weeks' time with everyone present, and I'm making up for lost time. And I remember watching, and again, like Rich said at the top of the show, This is one of the DVDs that were packed full of about 3 different commentaries, references, and they were breaking stuff down and everything, and the passion coming through. And I remember there was this feature where they're spitballing ideas, and there was this, those old school paper boards
Oh
that you write
yes,
on,
I remember that. Yeah.
and it's just one, and it's like, no, that's not going to work. Okay, how about we do
Oh
this?
yeah, I remember
And
this.
it was just like, oh my god, like this is going so deep, and they're not even started filming yet. They're just spitballing ideas in the office.
I think they did that with Hot Fuzz and The
Yeah.
World's End as well. But
Mm.
then, sort of, by the time they got to Hot Fuzz, like for Shaun of the Dead, the flip chart, they're just making jokes and they've got doodles on the side of it and stuff. I remember specifically for some reason, the thing I remember the most is that someone drew a rock arrow. Like, look, a rock arrow, an arrow made of rock. And then in Hot Fuzz, they were like, we had to stop fucking around. Like, we are filmmakers now
Hmm.
because Shaun of the Dead was so huge. Now we have loads more money, and like they were really serious. So yeah, I just remember that like the production of Shaun of the Dead looked really ragtag, like a bunch of mates
Yeah.
hanging out. It seemed like a good time.
I'm going to say something now that's going to be really bizarre to us people who love everything they've done, from Spaced all the way through to even Paul. Even though it had minimal involvement from the production department of these 3 films and Spaced. I tried introducing my family to Spaced and they don't get it because it's such a subtle early mid-20s flatmates, movie references, bizarre like deep cut television episode references. There was a whole scene once when I talk about a movie poster. I think we did a Spaced recording, didn't we? About a year ago or so, or 2 years ago.
Did you?
We have covered it on
so.
the
Yeah,
when we went through the 90s.
yeah.
That was before my
And-
time.
It was.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Sorry. And yeah, it's the same to us because I think we've watched them evolve as filmmakers and television makers and writers and performers. But for someone to watch and love the Cornetto trilogy, as my family do, then to watch them try and understand Spaced is totally fish out of water territory for them. I don't know. Like, I've even tried explaining what was going on there. Just they're completely just.
I mean, yeah, commissioning TV shows in the late 90s was a very different thing to the way it works now, especially on Channel 4, which was the funky, groovy, risk-taking channel, right, where they put any old shit on. So it's like Spaced. The Spaced is legitimately fantastic, but it is very what's the word? It's bizarre and
It's very niche as well.
it is quite niche.
I really miss that Channel 4 so bad. Like,
I know.
Yeah, Friday on Channel
too.
4. And that's again, like, I think if I remember rightly, on the Space DVD commentary, Edgar was talking about how they were literally left alone and they could do what they want.
Mhm.
Because Channel 4 was so busy with other projects. This is 1998, 99. And they were literally, like, no one was coming to the set. No one was looking at scripts saying you can't do
No,
that.
you just got commissioned. It's like, make
And-
6 of those and then come back when
Yeah.
you've made 6 of those. And they would just go do it and then they'd air it.
Rookie writers, performers, directors, and it was Edgar Wright's demo reel for what would become Shaun of the Dead.
Jason, what about you? Did you see this when it came out?
I didn't see this in the cinema either.
Jeez.
I was late to all this stuff. I just caught the hype train after it being shown in the cinema and it started getting popular in America and you know everything was blowing up about the film and I was like, oh, maybe I should take note of this film. You know, it sounds like it might actually be all right. So no, is the quick answer, Steve, to your question is that no, I did not see it at the cinema. I caught it afterwards, and that's how when I then started exploring Spaced when I learned of the connections.
So I rewatched this film today because I never need much of an excuse to rewatch this film. And this is a film that just gets better every time you rewatch it. As we said earlier, it's an incredibly dense film. And when I rewatched it today, like a few things stood out to me in a way that they didn't stand out before. Like I used to think that the opening like zombie apocalypse outbreak thing was kind of light touch in this and that you didn't really see it. But like that's not really the case. Like the outbreak is happening like all throughout the opening scenes of this film. Like there's sirens and ambulances and army trucks
Yeah.
rolling by constantly in
That-
the opening scenes of this film, and that like really stood out to me.
Yeah.
But all of the main characters are so complacent that they just sort of don't really notice that that's happening, and it isn't until it is upon them. And it's actually one of the best zombie outbreak openings, I think. What do you guys think?
I kind of related to it personally because I think if I was in that situation, I would definitely be the same. I think I'd probably pop down the shops and not have a clue what the fuck's
Well, like
going on.
how we all ignored COVID at that point. No, it's
I
not
mean-
a thing. It's not a thing.
Funny,
Shit.
but this film, I mean, I've not watched this film in ages, and now I'm thinking, Christ, post-COVID, this is going to hit a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going in the shop, when it's just like a really empty, quiet street, and I'm just like going in to get some stuff and then go back to your little hovel, just like COVID. So,
But I mean, that whole opening, especially the like the one shot, isn't there, of like when Tim goes to the shop, and like you start seeing like there's a guy that's like walking like a zombie, but he's like right in the background. He's quite blurry. You don't really see him that well. And like you said, Steve, all the other bits and pieces they kind of dropped in the backgrounds that you wouldn't necessarily see, And it was just really cool way of doing it instead of just chucking it straight in your face.
Yeah, and it's all like really well done and really entertaining, but it's also all information. Like, not a second of this film is wasted.
No.
Like, not a line of dialogue is wasted, and not a second of screen time is wasted because you've already seen Shaun get up, and what he does is he goes to the shop and he gets a can of Coke and he downs that in the morning. And then the morning of the apocalypse, he does exactly the same thing. So you're like, okay, this guy doesn't pay attention to what he's doing. This guy just repeats the same things over and over again. He's stuck in a rut to the point where he doesn't even notice that the fucking society has collapsed around him. And that one single shot that is repeated twice is incredibly well done. And all of the dialogue in this film that gets repeated as well is ridiculous. The number of times that somebody says some dialogue and then it's repeated later in a different context that gives it a different meaning is just absolutely genius.
I don't have the relevance that you guys have to like Dawn of the Dead or anything like that. And I know this was a big influence on the film. Obviously, like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are big Dawn of the Dead fans too, and that whole series of films. But I found it was quite nice for someone that didn't have that connection to still be able to watch this film. Like plot wise, they made it very open, but they still managed to have the connections to those films, which was really cool. But and it must be quite easy for them to go, oh, well, fuck it, let's just do a straight zombie apocalypse film, where a group of people have just got to survive. But I think the other side of the plot that makes the film and like what everyone likes is like Tim's progression from this like layabout bloke to somebody who he kind of grows through the film, and that was the other side of the plot that I really appreciated.
yeah, I mean, for me, again, coming in as the big like zombie, like just aficionado. What this film did well with the plot is much like sort of the Romero films. It didn't try to actually set up how everything came about. It was very unspoken. We were already in the middle of the actual crisis, and people were only starting to get the information. Whereas you've got something like Dawn of the Dead, you've got characters in the actual news studio and stuff's coming in. Emergency stations are opening up and people arguing on the TV. This is simply a case of streets are getting quieter, person's hacking and coughing on the bus. Tim goes to the shop. The one thing I love about that shop sequence is that little slip he does, which is clearly it's blood. Clearly it's blood. And you just get him from basically like the chest up, and he just doesn't even react. He just catches himself and it just carries on. And like how it executes that is so great. Like that is the actual exposition, and it's not just funny. It doesn't just tap into the actual themes of the repetition, the mundane British life, or being that kind of age. It's a really tough one to describe, but it just captures, I think, what the zombie genre is like. That it's not. It just throws you in there. Like everything's happening. It's not like watching like the Resident Evil film where someone drops a canister or something on the floor and it goes in the vents and everyone turns into zombies. It's just there. It's happening.
Yeah, it's happened. Obviously, it was already happening, but overnight, it's like taken hold, and everything's fucked now.
Yeah.
And it happened overnight, but he's just slept through it.
Yeah.
That shop scene. I mean, that one shot sequence down the street is great, but that shop scene. There's other little details in there as well, like the shop owner Winston, I think he calls him.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called. Out of focus in the background, he's standing up really slowly and starts shambling towards him, but he doesn't notice. Shaun goes to grab the can of Coke, but he thinks about it and then gets a can of Diet Coke instead, which is like him deciding, no, I'm going to improve my life from today. It's just so good. It's just so good.
It's the small moments from like Simon Pegg that sell it as well in that scene where no dialogue's uttered. It's a small look in the eye and a cock of the head, and then he reaches for a different can.
Yeah.
And just masterful. And like you guys were saying, just the way it's set up, the first shot and the second shot gradually changing. There's a burnt out car. The guy's walking and his dog's gone, but he's still got the lead in his hand.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like he sees everybody that he saw from the day before, or like there is something related to the people that he saw the day before. There's a homeless guy with a dog, someone cleaning the car windshield, but now the windshield is smashed.
Yeah.
There's a jogger that runs past him on the first day, and on the second day he just sprints past him because he's clearly running for his life. It's just, man,
there was the kid with the ball as well.
With
There's
the
a
ball,
gag with
yeah.
that. Well, I
That's
can't remember
right.
how it plays out now because obviously initially he's getting like hit by the ball, and I can't remember. Is it just that the fact
on the
that
second
it's
day,
not actually
the
there?
zombie kicks the ball at him,
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he?
which is, really don't like. You don't see him kick, but like he gets hit by a ball,
Yeah.
and then the camera pans, and it's the zombie kid.
But even to the point, the next scene where they're flicking through the channels and they're realising what's going on, the masterful editing of those clips, and people are literally like,
Oh yeah,
it's just brilliant. It's like Edgar Wright just has all this wholesale in his head and he just vomits it out onto a script and a storyboard.
Even that I love for the TV as well, because again, one of the things I love about the Romero films is how well it captures the actual, not just the society collapsing, but you'd imagine being at home, like in the middle of the night, you've got the TV on, you're trying to find information. The way they use all the real world, like you got Christian Guru Murphy on, like, Channel 4 News, and it's very grounded, very well done. And yeah, it's a good comedic device to give them the information. But even then, when they're like seeing all the emergency, like all the channels are all shut down, all the little emergency cards are up, nothing's showing on the TV, and it is generally quite dystopian and chilling. And it's like it just balances the comedy and like the actual zombie film shit really well. Like I feel like, oh, this is what it would be like. This is what it's like if there's a nuclear strike happening or anything genuine that would happen in this world or this country or whatever. It just does it really, really well.
Like the other two films, Hot Fuzz and The World's End, a similar sort of thing happens where you get into the third act and everything becomes really abrasive and harsh, and there's still comedies, but it's like less funny and it's more realistic, and these characters are having to deal with real issues now, and there's real danger. In particular in this film, I absolutely love the third act of this film, because the turn is so good where everything is now fucked, and it's like everyone realizes how fucked they are, and it's just great. And it's so like emotional too. Like this film is backloaded with all of the emotional moments. It's it's great.
I mean, one of the things I like about Shaun of the Dead as well is that it's because they concentrate on the small group of people as well. It's not like other post-apocalyptic or disaster films where they're like concentrating on the president or the government and the wider scope of like something like this happening. I'm quite glad, and it worked in the film's favour massively, that they decided to just concentrate on these small group of people and what their experiences were like through this zombie apocalypse as well. I thought that just made the film extra cool.
And like what are people's priorities? Like Shaun, it's sort of a dual story, right? It's a zombie apocalypse. It's also about Shaun trying to become an adult, right? And Shaun's part, like Shaun. Another thing that stood out to me in this film is that Shaun's a prick, right? He's very he's very likable, but he's a selfish dick, and he's way more concerned with how people see him and how he comes across than he is with actually doing anything for anyone else. All he knows is that he has these relationships that he wants to maintain, but he's not interested in doing any of the work that comes with trying to maintain them. To the point where he fucking gets people killed because he comes up with this plan because he wants to look like somebody who has a plan and he wants to look like somebody who knows what he's doing. But like, the army does come at the end. There is a happy ending. Humanity does survive. So everybody should have just fucking stayed at home. But because Shaun's a selfish prick who couldn't accept that he got dumped, he got people killed. And like Shaun doesn't really change until right at the end of the film when he has to let go of Ed. But yeah, that really stood out to me today. That rewatching it today is that like Shaun's like selfishness and his sort of immaturity just gets all his friends killed. And it's great.
And I think as well, what's fascinating about him as a character, and I feel like you kind of really start to understand it now. Like I probably would look at it now, and I look at it as Shaun isn't this like broadly written, cartoonish, like slobby, like dumbass, or like out and out prick. There's a good person in there, but there's things he does, there's traits, and there's things I will actually probably look at myself now and think, there's a point, even in my relationship, I'm thinking, I've actually been a bit of a turd, and I think I'm a good person. And that's kind of where you get complacent. You think, well, I'm not a bad person. And
yes, exactly.
To the point, it's actually kind of abusive because he thinks, well, Liz is there and she likes me and I'm good to her and we have a relationship and I'm not like, doing anything horrible, I'm not cheating or God forbid anything worse. But he just coasts by because he has this view of what a shitty person is and he doesn't meet that criteria, and he just thinks, it's a given. He's going to have his mate Ed. He's going to do the things that he really shouldn't be doing as much of, sitting on the couch playing video games. He has responsibilities, but he thinks, well, I'm not this cartoonish bad person, therefore I'm good. And that, I think it resonates more now. I watched it when this film came out, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's all right. And now I'm like, yeah, fuck, there's things I can see in myself. I think, times I probably wouldn't have been as proud of myself, and I'm like, shit, this film actually kind of hits you.
100%. Yeah, I remember being. So I mean, I was younger than Shaun when this film came out, but I remember being that guy. Like, I was so concerned with what other people thought of me, that I just didn't put any thought into what I could do for anyone else at all. And like, as a character, he's just like super relatable. That sort of like arrested emotional development kind of. Although, I mean, he's 29, so he doesn't really have an excuse. But, he is like an early 20s arsehole because people in their early 20s, generally speaking, they're arseholes.
Yeah. I think you can still coast by that first half of that decade, but then you're getting towards 13 and you really realise life has to start slowing down.
You have to get your shit together, yes. Or if you don't want to get your shit together, don't expect other people. Like, he ruined Liz's life for 3 years, you
need to be single, basically.
Absolutely.
And then blamed her for ruining his life. It's such a human story. And this is what attracts people. And this is what attracts people to these guys' stuff. They tell human stories in a bizarre, absurd environment, like any good filmmaker does. And the free films and the space television show and Edgar Wright's other independent projects he's done are exactly the same. Just they tell a human story. We all have failures. We're all assholes. We've all been there. And you want to be reminded of it, and this does it perfectly well.
I mean, if there was another thing of the plot of the film, is like his obsession of getting to the Winchester, obviously.
Mhm.
Because, I don't think I would try and do that, but I liked his obsession to try and get back to the pub where he'd be
Well,
safe.
what's safe? What's familiar? Like, that's how he lives his life, is safe and familiar.
Yeah.
Got dead
He doesn't
bolts.
want to do anything that's scary or unknown. You got to stay in your comfort zone, and that means you got to get to the Winchester. Obviously, Ed has a lot to do with it. Like, Ed makes a lot of really shit decisions as well.
I'm gonna just bring up something quick because it's not necessarily key to the plot, but you were talking about the Winchester plan scene. Getting Mum and taking care of Philip and all that stuff. Sorry, Philip. It's like
Grab Liz.
I'll just get it off my chest. Like, that scene I adore, because that whole scene when he's talking about the plan is set to music by Zombie from Dawn of the Dead. Sorry, Zombie. From Goblin, from Dawn of the Dead. The action music, basically, when our heroes from Dawn of the Dead are running around the mall taking care of zombies, and I was in the cinema grinning like an absolute bellend, and everyone else just thinking this is just fun music, and I was like, "That's Goblin." I was like, I was happy as a pig in shit. I was so happy, like, the references in this film. I could talk all day, like the little references, like you've got Shaun's job, Furry Electric. That's a reference to Ken Faree, who played Peter in Dawn of the Dead. I'm just like losing my shit. We're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's film. Fuck, I just love it. Love it so much.
So, yeah, they end up going to the Winchester, and the third act of this film is fucking bananas, and it all just falls apart, and it turns into a capital Z zombie film. I do just want to talk about I talked about the sort of structure and the layering of this film and the sort of repeated lines of dialogue. I think the most famous example of this is when Ed is trying to cheer up Shaun after Liz dumps him, and he describes what he's got planned for them the next day. He's like, you don't need Liz to have a good time. Like, we're just going to start drinking tomorrow morning, and we're just going to keep drinking. And he describes the day as, we'll have a Bloody Mary first thing, have a bite to eat at the King's Head, couple at the Little Princess, stagger back here, bang, back at the bar for shots. And Mary is the name of the first zombie that they meet in the garden in the morning. Shaun's dad gets bitten in the neck, a bite at the King's Head. They visit Liz's flat, which is the Little Princess. They stagger back to the King's Head while they're pretending to be zombies. They stagger back to the Winchester when they're pretending to be zombies, and then bang, back at the bar for shots refers to when they're firing the Winchester
It's just
rifle.
Exceptional writing.
And like, the film is just jam packed with stuff like that. Like, it is all over this thing. It's crazy. When Ed's describing the patrons of the pub, and he describes snake hips, a man who's always surrounded by women, and he's just like a throwaway character. But then later on, you can see him, and he's been killed, and he's being eaten, and all of the zombies are women. And like, we would be here forever if I talked about all of the examples of this, but it's just genius. It's so good.
It's so layered, and you don't think about it when you see it 20 years ago. But the more you watch a breakdown of it, and the more you watch it yourself, and you figure things out, like, oh, holy fuck! It's only taken me 20 years to realise that gag.
I'm actually dreading seeing this film again now, because I just think, oh my god, I've missed so much. It was like, I've just not appreciated
And even
it.
like a useless bit of trivia I learned on the DVD years ago, and Simon Pegg even brought it up on a recent interview with GQ, that the guy who runs the bar was John Wayne's stunt double and stand-in for a few of his Western movies.
Huh.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's a random bit of information, but like he said, they stood there and all of a sudden they're hitting John Wayne's stunt double and stand-in with pull cues to "Don't Stop Me Now." Like, you worked with John Wayne. It's like, what the fuck? Like, this is mad.
That's a pretty strange career turn.
It is like, but it's just fucking, it's so deep.
I think just like one more example of that, the when Shaun and Ed are getting ready to leave the house to go outside to the zombies, he looks through the letterbox, and Ed asks, "Are there any zombies out there?" And zombie is only said twice in this film. Are there any zombies out there? And Shaun says, "Don't say that. The Z word. It's ridiculous." And then later on, when Shaun's mum has been bitten and she's dying, it's a really emotionally intense scene. And David said, "She's going to be a zombie." And Shaun says, "Don't say that." But he says it like really emotionally as he's crying. Like, it's genius.
That is
genius.
fucking heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, we talked about the emotion of this film, but yeah, again, that's why it's just phenomenally good and how it will just flip on you. And it's like, I'm actually watching this man has now lost his mum in the worst way, and I'm just like, and he has to take care of her. And it's just like, fuck. Like, again, as the zombie guy and all of this, like, it just handles it so well. Like, the heartbreak of certain characters having to be, dispatched because they're now a risk to the rest of the group. And it's just like, fuck, it's so good. It's so good.
And then it's got a pretty good guy being eaten alive scene, which is Dylan Moran getting his guts pulled out.
Hell yeah.
Pretty intense. I mean, if you've seen, Day of the Dead, it's kind of tame compared to Day of the Dead, but it's still pretty fucking intense. I remember being fairly shocked when I first watched this film that they actually went there and went that far with the guts and stuff.
I was so happy what they did. Because I mean, I said, if you're going to do it, you got to go all out. You need to go Tom Savini levels of gore. It's just like,
you do.
You're doing a zombie film. You love Romero. You got to do it right. And I was just in my element in cinema. I'm watching this, and I'm watching the guys from Spaced, and I'm seeing someone get completely disemboweled by zombies. And
the guy from Black Books is getting his
nuts
ripped out.
It's just Dylan Moran has some of the best material in this movie.
Yeah,
and yes, recently he's gone off the rails and he's gone a bit backwards now. But
oh no, I haven't heard about that. I don't want to know. Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
It's nothing bad. Like, we've seen him live twice, and both gigs were fantastic. He's just a middle-aged Irish man screaming at the world in a very deadpan way, and he's great to see live. And then when you see him in Black Books, and then this, where he plays just such a fucking wimpy, dweeby piece of shit that would hide behind his mum in a bank robbery,
I'm not a chartered accountant.
And it's just that, and it's just that bit in Liz's flat where Shaun just turns around and says, "Oh, get fucked, Four Eyes."
That's such a line, seriously.
And you can actually see Dylan, to quote The Simpsons, you can see the exact moment his heart rips into. And it's just played so well, and to see this fucking wimpy piece of shit get pulled apart by zombies is just the most rewarding part of the movie. And Simon Pegg still has his head in his loft. There's an interview with I'm sure it's GQ or
That's amazing.
Something, and he said he was going through small stuff, and there's a big crate that said Shaun of the Dead stuff, and there's Dylan Moran's latex head from the special effects crew. So why do I have this?
Here's another thing, right, about rewatching that film, this film today. He's a piece of shit, that character, but he's right. He's fucking right.
Yeah, he's right the whole time.
Through the whole film, he's right. Like, he's an arse about it, but if they listened to David, they'd all have survived.
Exactly.
So, yeah, incredibly intense action, but Shaun and Liz survive. Ed very sadly dies, but it's revealed at the end. Oh, yeah, earlier on in the film, Peter Serafinowicz says to Ed, "If you want to live like an animal, why don't you go live in a shed?" And then at the end of the film, it's revealed that Shaun keeps zombified Ed in the shed.
Still love that line. Like,
just hands.
Eat. He's like, "Oi, prick." It's like,
yeah, and the foreshadowing, isn't it? Yeah, next time I see him, he's going to be dead.
I love it when they're looking up the stairs and Ed says, "Why don't we just go up there?" And Shaun says, A, he might be one of them, and B, he might still be annoyed.
You're not doing all this just to prove something, are you?
No, of course not. I just think...
Because I meant everything I said last night. Nothing's changed. Maybe this isn't the best time to talk about it.
Okay.
Sean,
Yvonne.
how's it going?
Surviving.
Hey, Liz. Long time no see.
Hey, Bon.
This is my boyfriend, Declan. My friends, Mark, Maggie, my mum, and my cousin Tom.
What?
This is Sean and his girlfriend Liz.
They split up, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a shame. Well, we should scoot. Have you got somewhere you're going?
Yeah, we're going to the Winchester.
The pub.
Yeah.
Right, well, good luck!
All right, so I think we should talk about the cast. I mean, this film, we could talk about this forever, I think, but let's move on and talk about the cast. As we've said, we've got Simon Pegg and Nick Frost from Space. Jessica Stevenson turns up as well. Start with Simon Pegg. Rich, how do you feel about Simon Pegg in this film?
Simon Pegg, I love him. I mean, he brought everything that made him endearing in Spaced. I think at the time, he was someone I kind of like, I think in a way, kind of like idolized and wanted to model myself on. I had started having like a penchant for like beanie hats after watching Space. I just keep wearing beanie. I don't know why. Simon Pegg was like my guy. Like at this point,
Yeah, I can relate to that.
You know, I like him. Like, and I think it was a continuation in Shaun of the Dead. I mean, he's in a zombie film. He's in a fucking retail job that's just kind of a bit like. I think about that point, I was kind of there, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's me." Identify, and also I'm seeing Tim in it as well. I'm like, oh, it's great. I love Simon Pegg. I don't know what else to say really. I mean, I feel like nowadays I probably look at him a bit more judgmental. He seems a bit of a tit.
He's in his 50s. He's entitled to be.
I also really loved Simon Pegg way back then. I think he's kind of a tit now. I mean, that's probably not fair to say. He's not got much of a presence anymore online. He used to be very online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think in the interest of protecting his career, he stopped posting anywhere.
Fair.
And I think there was a Guardian. I'm trying to find it. There was an interview with him in the Guardian last year that really left a sour taste in my mouth. Where he said his memoir was called Nerd Do Well. I just found it, and he said that title doesn't fit anymore. I'm not that geeky guy anymore, and he says that he's grown out of it, and he doesn't have the same interests as he had when he was 35 or 40. And he said, "I'd much rather watch Succession than sci-fi." I'm like, come on, dude, do both. Why don't you watch both?
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand why he feels the need to sort of wholesale eject that part of himself.
Yeah.
After he's become quite a big Hollywood star and he's mates with Tom Cruise. Anyway, I don't know. Perhaps it's unfair of me, but that just feels icky to me.
I think Edgar Wright, he still seems pretty true to himself. Like the films he takes on, his style, it still very speaks to someone who is keyed into like, you know, the nerd culture and like that degree of like paying reverence and just appealing to that kind of crowd. And yeah, with Simon Pegg, it feels a little bit like he's being a bit of a snob now.
Yeah, so like ironically, claiming to have grown out of that stuff is actually kind of an immature thing to say.
Yeah.
And I've actually just found the bit that I found the bit that actually gave me a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. He said, Pegg has come to look at nostalgia as an almost neurological disorder. And he said, this culture of infantilized adulthood, all these grown-ass men arguing about fucking superheroes online, that's why we'll all go to hell, because no one will grow the fuck up anymore. Everyone's so plugged into being a child, you know? Like, wow, man.
I think what's horrible is there's like probably a kernel of that. I'm like, you know what? He's not wrong.
He doesn't. He has a point. There is a point in there, but it annoys me because he's framing himself as being above it all, and
Yes.
even though and completely just ejecting his roots and how he started and where he came from, and I don't know, that just annoys me. In Shaun of the Dead, however, I think he's fucking great, and he's like his comedic acting is incredible. Like he's very, very good. He's a very good actor. Yeah, so he's great in this, and he's great in all the films that he's in. He's just, I don't know, been a bit weird lately. Jason, you got any feelings on Simon Pegg?
Yeah, pretty much what's been said, I guess. Like he was such a likable person, like in real life as well, and that carried over into the camera. That when you watched Simon Pegg, you couldn't help but fall in love with him and like want to be his mate. Especially what he was like, what Chris said about how he was kind of projecting us into the limelight and showing, what, come on, us nerds and geeks, it's not bad, it's great, you're
Yeah.
missing out on all the good stuff. And in Shaun of the Dead, he was just great. I mean, I recently read the Shaun of the Dead book, You've Got Red on You, and like they speak in there about Simon Pegg and just how masterful his comedic timing was in this film.
Mhm.
And like nobody else could pull it off. Like the slip that you said about in the shop, the way that he pulled that off was just Simon Pegg. Like no one else could do it like Simon Pegg could. And, this film would just not be the same without Simon Pegg. And the rest of his acting was just great as well, which was obviously very helpful because, I mean, you could have that comedic time and then be a shit actor and it just wouldn't meld right, would it? But
Yeah.
thankfully, all his like facial expressions and the way he delivered his lines and, the way he beat the shit out of the zombies in the pub and, it was just a masterful performance all the way through and just, you can't really fault it. You really can't.
Okay, so we've also got Nick Frost in this film, obviously playing Ed. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, friends in real life, which is why they did so much work together. I don't know if they're still friends. I always kind of get the sense that they're not friends anymore. I don't know where I get that from.
That'd be sad if that's true.
No, they are, because they've been posting them on Instagram, eating lunch and having beers at each other's houses.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, it's quite a nice thing to see because even you guys, I was like, I wonder, and then all of a sudden it was like Nick Frost was wishing Simon Pegg a happy Nick Frost was wishing Simon Pegg a happy birthday. That was it, and it was just a picture of Nick Frost, and then Simon Pegg half hour later put up just wishing myself a happy birthday, and it was a picture of Nick Frost from his phone. And then a picture came up of them both together. So they're seeing each other, I guess. And that makes me happy because it's a friendship that is hopefully never going to die. So.
I hope so. Over COVID, they did that cool thing where they did that video together, which was kind of like Shaun of the Dead, where they made a plan of what to do, which was quite cool. But Nick Frost, not an actor. He was just Simon Pegg's mate. And Simon Pegg said, do you want to come be in Spaced and play this guy? And Nick Frost went, yeah, all right, I'll give that a go. That sounds like a laugh. And he was really good in Spaced. And he's incredible in this. And he's a really good actor. I've got a lot of time for Nick Frost. I think he's really good.
We've spoken about Nick Frost, me and my wife as well, how I think without being a formal actor and having any formal training, he was, according to Simon Pegg's book, he was working in, was it a Chiquitos or a Frankie and Benny's or something?
No way.
Or something like that. And like they got introduced by, I think, Simon's wife, because there was a regular there, and they got on well, went out partying and stoned and whatever, and realised, hang on a minute, we're literally like brothers, what the hell? And then I think that not having formal acting training sometimes is beneficial because the person is themselves delivering this absurd, like, lines, like especially in Spaced, where he's playing this militant guy who's part of the the territorial army. I just think it's a genuine performance from him because he doesn't have that discipline. So he turns up, he's jolly, he's happy, he's Simon's mate, and he just has fun for a few hours a day and gets filmed doing it. And I think it just comes off genuine. And even now, especially in Hot Fuzz, the Hot Fuzz performance is just such a heartwarming performance. It's so chilled and relaxed. It's like a few actors you can watch and you feel like you're just watching them being them, and then they just happen to be delivering someone else's lines. And I just love Nick Frost. Like you guys, I think he's just such a natural, charismatic guy. And again, he's got a very strong online presence, especially cooking. He's done some really good cooking.
Okay, I had no idea.
And I believe he's writing a cookbook. I think he started doing cooking over COVID and it kind of blew up, and now it's just a regular thing.
Huh.
So
I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, it's quite funny. And nice all at the same time.
So, anyone else got any Nick Frost thoughts?
I really liked his story. Like, you know, where, like we said, like he's not he's never formally trained as an actor. He never had that kind of passion or drive to be an actor, and he kind of just fell into it. And you know, it proved to be, you know, the right move for him. And like, it's nice when you hear a story like that, you know, where it just kind of falls into place without any kind of plans, and he kind of landed on his feet. But I mean, like, I was quite fascinated on how much Edgar and Simon really petitioned for Nick to be in this film, because like the studio did not want him in this film from what I've read. You know, because of that, not being an actor, not being trained as an actor, you know, he's didn't have any qualifications or anything like that, you know, and, you know, Universal and was just like, no, would you know, why don't we try and get a bigger star in, you know, a bigger actor, you know, to try and pull in the audience and such. But, you know, Edgar and Simon were adamant, like, no, it needs to be Nick Frost or it's not going to be anybody, you know. And, you know, really like that commitment to Nick. And, you know, it proved to be the right call because the way that he played Ed was great, you know. And I, in some ways, I hated Ed, you know, like he's an arse, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
A complete arse. And he actually got everything he deserved in the end. But, you know, but that to make the audience feel like that when you're watching a film just shows you how much of a good actor he is. And kudos to him, man. You know, he's just come in and he's done this, and it's just falling in place for him. And respect, you know, good luck to you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember watching this film after watching Spaced, and Ed is very different to Mike in Spaced. So, you know, the dude's got range. It's not like he was just turning up, because there's a chance that he just turned up to Spaced and just was himself. But then he proved that no, he can act by just playing this layabout arsehole in Shaun of the Dead. The thing about Ed is he's really likable, and he's the guy that you kind of want to have in your life because he seems like a laugh, but you don't want to live with him, you don't want to be in a relationship with him, and you don't want to spend too much time with him because, he's a piece of shit, really.
And it will drag you down, like literally make your life miserable without you realising. Also, he's the guy that if you got into trouble, he would fucking throat punch the bastards.
Yes.
And he'd have you back. He'd go to prison to save you in a fight, you know what I mean? It's good to have those people around.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what's kind of sad about his character, is that he is that mirror of Shaun, but he hasn't got someone in his life to kind of steer him, and he's already lost, basically. He's the result of, you know, what Shaun would be if he didn't have Liz, someone to actually, you know, tell him to fucking buck his ideas up and, you know, be a better person. So yeah, I mean, he was a prick, but like, I did feel genuine sadness for him when he lost his life. I was like,
absolutely,
because it just was like, you tell. I mean, that's the thing where he does it so well as a dramatic performance. How like scared he is in that scene when he knows he's done. And I was like, fuck, this like right not long after like Tim's lost his mum, and it's like, oh shit, like he is so good at conveying that like just complete blind panic, because he knows he's just bleeding out. He knows what happens next. And again, it speaks to his range. Yeah, Ed is nothing like Mike. Mike's nothing like Danny. Ed's nothing like Danny and Hot Fuzz. Like the guy is actually almost a fucking character actor, and he wasn't even an actor. Like he could easily, like you said, he could just be in these films playing Simon Pegg's mate, just with a different name. And he is really impressive in this, and I really like him. He's great comedic actor. He's very natural. He's not like mugging for the camera or trying to be, you know, he's not like, you know, a Corden type where you're just like, just please go away. He feels like someone you'd know, and he feels relatable.
Totally. He feels very real. Yeah. I wonder, I assume they had a backstory for Ed, because there's a point where Peter Serafinowicz says, remember when we stayed up all night drinking apple schnapps and playing Tekken 2? That was 5 years ago. When's he going home? And it makes me wonder what the deal is with Ed. Like, I don't know. Did he come straight from his parents' house and sort of latch onto those two and they just can't get rid of him? I don't know. There must be a reason why he's such a layabout fuck up. But I mean, we'll never know. But the character sort of has that, potential depth to him. He feels very believable.
Are you saying that we need a prequel film?
Yeah. Shaun of the Dead Origins. But again, like, I love how I didn't know the Universal story there about them not wanting Nick Frost due to not being an actor. I wonder if they would have said that to some of the Oscar-winning actors who have not been officially trained as actors, who are now Hollywood greats and A-listers.
Such as? I need names now. I need names.
Such as Tom Cruise, Nicholas Hoult, Henry Cavill, Jennifer Lawrence, Channing Tatum, Matthew McConaughey, Evangeline Lilly, Johnny Depp. There's loads of them. And I don't believe actors like Steve McQueen either were classically trained. They just fell into a job. And Harrison Ford's another prime example.
Yeah. Sean Connery was a lorry driver, wasn't he?
And Sean Connery was Mr. Universe and a lorry driver and a milkman. You know what I mean? And Roger Moore was modelling cardigans. We could do this whole shtick.
George was the fries guy,
Yeah, and like there are so many Hollywood greats that have done such iconic work without official acting training.
And also that relationship, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, they were spinning gold with that for a while. They made Paul. I don't know exactly how many films they were both in.
That was Hollywood trying to bottle that magic. I don't know.
And it didn't work.
It didn't quite work. It didn't quite work. But imagine not seeing that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I think from what I remember reading, like with Universal, they were worried because it was such a, I don't know, like they were worried that they just wouldn't make their money back from financing this film without a big star to draw in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what there was concern about. But I mean, it needn't have been worried really, because the way it blew up when the film finally released,
word of mouth did its job. Yeah. So in terms of more of the cast, then we've got Kate Ashfield as Liz. I'm not very familiar with Kate Ashfield. I don't remember anything else that I was seeing her in. She's very good in this, though.
Yeah, she plays a great girlfriend.
Yeah, she's very good. Very, very nice person. You get a lot of insight into what their relationship would have been like. Obviously, we see it at the very end where they break up, but the way her and Shaun interact with each other, you get insight as to what that relationship would be like. And she's very, she covers for him a lot. When Shaun's trying to pretend to be a hero and David's like, we don't even know where we're going. And Liz says, he does know. And then quietly to him, you do know, right? And there's lots of times where she just covers for him like he's a child. Yeah. She's very, very sweet. And shouting calm the fuck down in that way is something that I still do sometimes because it's a great line delivery and it's very satisfying to do.
I think in lesser films as well, I mean, maybe not broadly, but they could easily tread into that territory of making her a bit of a bitch or outwardly make her she's wrong. And he's right, but they've kind of just thread that needle a little bit where it's don't know if I like her. And it's no, she is 100% in the right.
100%,
she's head screwed on. She wants things for him as much as herself. And it's and she does a great performance with that. And it's just, good writing, great writing, and great performance.
She just delivered her lines great, didn't she? Even when Shaun was just being Shaun, you could see the emotions on her face of just shut the fuck up, dude.
Yeah.
Things like I think there's a scene where Shaun's saying as Bertrand Russell once said, the only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation. I think we can all appreciate the relevance of that now. And Liz was like, "Was that on a beer mat?" And like Shaun was like, "Yes, it was a Guinness Extra Gold." And Liz says, "I won't say anything."
Yeah,
You know,
it's so sweet.
and the way that she played Liz when she's saying things like that is so believable, and she just was the perfect casting for it.
And I think she might be like the only really proper straight person. Like she's nothing. She doesn't say or do anything absurd. Like she's just on the level, super smart, completely straight the entire time.
So she grounds the entire film. Just
Yes.
that running thread all the way through of the
Yes.
absurdity and bizarre things. Like, and she's just this ever suffering girlfriend, and we all have girlfriends and wives that do cover our tracks as well. We're men. We are literally overgrown children.
We're all fuck ups. Absolutely.
Who
Absolutely.
are just thankful to exist and that toilets are a thing, and we're happy. Yeah. And
I apologise to my wife at least once a week for just being me. So
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are on about. I'm perfect. We got Lucy Davis as well playing Diane.
Oh, I love Lucy Davis.
Lucy
so
Davis,
much.
she's great in this. Most well known from The Office, I assume. That's what most people have seen her in.
Mm-hmm.
She plays a failed actress in this, although Shaun never called her a failed actress. But yeah, she's hilarious.
I love the whole thing with like I just love she was in this for such a little bit part. I don't even remember how much dialogue she even has in this film, but my fondest memory is how she just goes out through the window at the end after David when he's like literally being ripped apart,
wielding his leg as a weapon. Yeah,
like she's going to retrieve something. Like she can,
and you don't see what happens to her. I mean, presumably she fucking dies.
She has
to.
Yeah. I mean, she basically is the Barbara from the original Night when she just gets she goes out through the window after she sees Johnny, and then they all just overpower her, and she just disappears into the mob when it's all just breaking down inside the house. And it's like you never see her again. So she is Barbara. So it's pretty cool. She's terrific in it. So I've always loved her. I loved her in The Office. I feel like it's probably this and that is the only things I've ever seen her in.
She was in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she was
in Wonder Woman.
Oh, that's right.
She was. Yeah, I forgot about that film. So
apparently, I haven't.
No, you jogged my memory, so I appreciate that. But yeah, so
she's in Wonder Woman, and she was in. I don't know if you ever caught the Netflix Sabrina show.
No.
Oh yeah.
I watched some of it, but yeah, I do it because she was one of the witch's sisters, the aunties, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I don't know which one, but
I forgot she was in that as well. Damn. Okay, yeah, she's in probably more stuff than I realised.
She's great. I always really love the way Shaun asks if either her or David have a car, and she goes, "Oh yes. Oh well. I mean, I've passed my tests."
Which is such a thing someone would say. Like, it's just
absolutely. She's just excited to tell someone that she can drive, completely not answering the question at all.
Oh, I love it.
And when she's, they decide that they can get past the zombies by pretending to be zombies, and so it's her time to shine. And she gives a brief acting class as she's describing the zombie, and she says, "Just look at the face; it's vacant with a hint of sadness, like a drunk who's lost a bet." We also have Dylan Moran, who we've talked about briefly already. Dylan Moran is great. I think this is a really good role for him. He plays a twat alongside the fellow actress. He's David, the university lecturer.
Shit.
Again, as I said earlier, he's right throughout this whole film. Yeah. David was right. # justice for David. Dylan Moran is cracking in this. He's really good. Flawless performance as a twat.
I wish Dylan Moran would do more acting because he's so natural. And for someone who started presenting children's TV in Ireland in the early 90s to then do Black Books, which again is a well-watched show in my household, and my brother-in-law I introduced to it as well. And now he's just doing lots of stand-up and gigs, and he's really big in Australia. And good, fair play to him. He's doing good, apart from obviously reasons I will not bring up on the show.
I'm assuming if he was
nothing
doing
horrendous.
Okay, that's good. I'm assuming if he was doing like early 90s Irish kids TV, he starred alongside Zig and Zag. I hope so.
No.
That was like, that was that's Irish through and through. So
Absolutely,
Yeah, there's very few clips. I think they're on YouTube. It was basically Ireland's version of the Broom Cupboard.
Oh.
So you can find it, but it's really weird to see Dylan Rand do kids TV.
Irish Broom Cupboard. Wow.
It was something like that, and it's just really bizarre stuff. But I just wish he would do more acting. I miss him in TV and film because I think he's fantastic.
When he gets asked if he has a car, he says, "I don't see the point of owning a car in London." Standout
It's
line
true.
delivery for me is when he refers to Shaun as Captain Wow. Great stuff. Honourable mentions go to Peter Serafinowicz, who plays Pete. I love Peter Serafinowicz.
I love him.
I wish he was in more stuff. Peter Serafinowicz is incredible, and he's incredible in this.
I had the pleasure of seeing him live as
he did. Yeah,
as Butterfield. So
fantastic.
that makeup is amazing for a stand-up show and a comedian for just insane Hollywood levels of makeup and prestige. It's so ridiculous.
So
amazing.
The voice of Darth Maul himself, and
voice of Darth Maul, yeah.
And he's now in Star Wars proper now, isn't he? Was he in No, it's Guardians of the Galaxy he was in, wasn't it? Or Star Wars?
Yes, he was, yeah. Standout line for me is, "It's not hard, is it? Writing something on a little scrap of paper."
I don't remember what scene that is. I can hear the dialogue perfectly in my head, but I don't know what scene it was.
Amazing. Check out Rafe's ball in this film.
Yeah. Little Rafe's ball, yeah.
Yeah.
That guy transformed. He was like
he really did.
slobby fucking guy, like working for Electric, and it's like,
I was totally munted last night.
Yeah. Good looking fucking dude now. I was like, shit, dude,
really
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you do not take after your dad.
No, he's hit his mid-40s stride. He's played a villain in a Jurassic Park movie. Not that you could call him a Jurassic Park movie.
The only villain in Jurassic Park is fucking Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, it was a dinosaur movie, but it wasn't a Jurassic Park.
Oh, shit.
We can all rest assured that Trisha survived the zombie apocalypse, which is great. Nice to see that Trisha made it. Lovely stuff. You've also got some little cameos as well from Jessica Stevenson, as we said, which is like the sort of
I love that moment.
Yin to Shaun's yang.
The Bizarro group, don't they? It's like
yes.
Cheese, that kind of thing. It's just
and they're all the same. They just nod at each other. You got Matt Lucas and Rhys Shearsmith and Tamsin Krieg.
Yeah,
and he's like, and Jessica Stevenson, and she appears twice in this movie. No, one was a deleted scene, wasn't it? Where they bump into each other on the street.
Yeah.
And it was deleted.
No, they bumping into each other in the street is in the film.
Oh, is that in the fight? I'm sure.
It is because she asks him about Liz, and he says, "Yeah, we're still together." And she says, "Oh, good. I'm glad somebody made it." And then at the end of the film, she asks, "Where's the rest of your group?" And Shaun says, "They didn't. They're not here anymore." And she said, "Glad somebody made it," which is another example of different context of the same line.
But I just love that little moment where Jessica comes in and reunites with Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright and Nick Frost again for a little moment, and it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's really well done. And it's not overdone either.
No. All right, so let's talk about our favourite moments.
I can't believe we've done the cast. Sorry, Steve. I can't believe we've done the cast without talking about Bill Nighy.
And Bill Nighy.
Shit, Bill Nighy, of course.
Shaun.
Of course. Thank you, Jason. That's a good catch. Bill Nighy.
Or Penelope Wilson, the future Prime Minister of the UK.
Doctor Who reference.
Yeah, that was a deep cut. Sorry.
Bill Nighy is always great, and he's great in this.
It was my first introduction to Bill Nighy. I didn't really know much about him, but his acting career started late anyway, didn't it? So this was probably quite early in his career, I guess, for acting. But I just like how he portrays his stepdad, and like, I don't know, like he makes a great zombie too. He should be in more zombie films.
does.
I just love the dark, the coldness that he has. This very stern, strict stepdad who's obviously 10 or 12 years older than the wife. You know, it's like a different generation, and it's just you finally meet the real person just before he turns. He's oh, for fuck's sake. But yeah, Bill Nye, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he got massive in Love Actually, didn't he? Like a few years before this.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird
Love Actually.
film to be big in. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but
Is that his breakout film? Must be, mustn't it?
Might be. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not.
No.
Because it was then Pirates of the Caribbean 2, wasn't it? After that. I don't know what came first.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think this came first. Whereas Davy Jones.
Jones, I think, is his finest role.
Yeah. It's also some of the finest CG ever committed to film.
Yeah.
Before they started overdoing it.
I think that's why it was such a big thing to get Bill Nye in for this film. You know, this is like a small budget zombie film.
Yeah.
You know, being made by like a group of people from a niche TV show. You know, just like it was a catch. You know, and it was a really good.
It really was
good casting.
Yeah, you got working title and Universal money to thank for that as well.
Probably.
Best line. I ran it under a cold tap. we should talk about Penelope Wilson because she's cracking in this, and everyone wants her as your mum.
Hi, Pickle.
She reminded me of my mum. You know,
my hell, you've grown. Oh, you better believe it. It's always just such a horrible line. I love it.
It is awful. Yeah. But yeah, she's lovely, and it is absolutely fucking heartbreaking when she dies.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers. She dies.
Now, some of these are limited.
What was that?
I think it was Blue Monday.
Man, there was an original press ad.
For fuck's sake. Purple Rain. No. Sign of the Times. Definitely not.
The Batman soundtrack.
Throw it. Okay. Oh, Dire Straits.
Throw it.
Oh, Stone Roses. No. Second Coming. I like it. Oh, Sade. That's Liz's.
Yeah, but she did dump you.
Oh! Up there, some guy in a shed.
But you said it was locked.
Which one do you want, Colonel Bloke? The first one.
All right. So, favourite moments, unless there's somebody else who I'm overlooking, Jason.
I think we're all good now.
Keep me honest here. We're good.
Yeah,
now.
we're good.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Okay. Favourite moments, Jason. What's yours?
It's probably the scene when they're in the back garden and they're just luzzing records at zombies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about that particular scene. Like, it's just so, I don't know. It's like something that you probably actually see in real life, maybe. You know, I'm sure there probably would be a couple of guys who are probably trying this. And in some ways, it's probably a good idea. You know, those records are sharp on the edge, man, if they get thrown properly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
especially when they're 40 years old, they get a bit brittle.
yeah, exactly. But you know, like, I just love like how they're just flicking through the box, going, you know, reading off artist names, going, no. Oh, I can't remember the artist names they're saying.
Is it Sade?
Batman soundtrack.
They're giving
nah, throw it.
because they're so like self-obsessed 20-year-olds. They're taking it as the opportunity to express their taste in music, and like talking about an album, and they're like, I liked it. Great stuff.
And I think I just hadn't seen this kind of stuff before. And like, there's these two zombies walking towards them, and they're literally just arguing about these albums and which ones they need to get rid of, and which ones are okay to throw at these like death-eating monsters that are approaching them, and which ones they need to keep because that's going to be important, you know, if they survive this.
Which they need to keep because that's the second album I ever bought.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, great. It's great. I love it. It's brilliant, and it just relatable. You know, it helps because it's a British film. It's in a back garden that I probably was in or had in our house with probably the same shed. You know, and just seeing this being brought to life. Yeah, it's just one of my favourite moments.
And just that shock moment as well with Mary, like when he says, "Oh, fuck off," and he shoves her. And when she falls on the support for the rotary line, it's just like, and I remember just like gasping in the cinema. I was like, "Oh fuck!" Because they think, "Oh, we've killed this poor girl. She's just drunk." And then when she starts to lift herself up off it, and you see that hole, you just see them through the hole.
Yeah, or like the guts suck back in as she comes up the pole, and then you see him through the hole. Yeah.
And you don't even see it, but you just hear Ed when he's just got the disposable camera, and he's just
when he starts winding the next, yeah.
Just like you don't even, just completely an audio gag. I was like, that's fucking brilliant. That's so good.
Great stuff. Chris, favorite moment.
I'm gonna kind of break for tradition here. I love the early scene when they're sat in a pub after the breakup, and it's just two mates sat at a table, and he's trying to make his best mate cheer up. Like, yes, the rest of the movie's a masterpiece of filmmaking, but they're sitting there, and Shaun's just literally losing the will to do anything, and again the bromance line of this film is your mates are always going to be there regardless of what, and they're just eating pig snacks, drinking beers, smoking cigarettes, sitting at the table in the bar, and it's one of the most lovely little scenes in the movie that just is just, I don't know, just Simon Pegg's just acting is just flawless, and Nick Frost doing an impression of Clyde from Every Which Way But Loose is just legendary. And and talking about life and how it goes, and and that joke is like, who put this song on? It's on random.
Yeah.
which
also comes back later.
It's like it can't. It's just on random. But yeah, it's just a lovely little scene that kind of bleeds into them DJing in the house with Pete. It's what are you talking about? It's Saturday. It's
for the fucking
Sunday. Yeah, it's Sunday, and it's 4:00 in the fucking morning, and I've got to go in because most of my team are phoned in sick. What's that on your hand? I got mugged. By you.
Doesn't bit me. And he goes, what by you?
By you. And it just bleeds in perfectly into that scene where they're just getting absolutely...
There's some really good behind-the-scenes stuff there as well, because Nick Frost, so Simon Pegg has to laugh, and so there's quite a long sequence of Nick Frost just trying to make him laugh.
Improv, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. And then that little scene ends with Nick Frost saying, it's not the end of the world. Yes, it is.
Brilliant.
It is.
Brilliant delivery.
Rich, favourite moment?
I touched upon it already, but for me, it's going to go back to when Shaun was just relaying their plan to get his mum, dispatch Phil, get to the Winchester, get Liz, everything. And I love the way it was edited. It was like classic Edgar Wright. It was the constant kind of redo where he's just like changing the plan, just getting more and more abridged version of what they're going to do. Sorry, Philip. Crack. And again, the whole thing was set to Goblin from Dawn of the Dead, and for me, it was just like pure indulgence. I loved it for being Shaun the Dead and that kind of comedy, the writing of Edgar Wright, but you coupled it, and I know it sounds really gross, but for me, I was just like, here's fan service, and I was just in my element, hearing that music in the cinema, and knowing, and being like, oh, I wonder if how the other people know, because I was like, it did, it felt
they
like...
they did that for you. The film opens with Goblin as well, right? Is that...
It does, when the Universal logo, that really, like, weird, like I can't even describe it, but yes, you're completely right. And at the
Yes.
Universal logo, I was like,
Mhm.
fucking yes.
Yes.
And that scene, it's just pure indulgence, pure just like, we love George Romero. This is kind of why this film exists.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a celebration. And I was in my element, absolutely my element through that whole scene. And it's just a brilliant scene, regardless of the music. But that just sent it over the edge for me. So
one of the most famous scenes of the film. I mean, people still talk about having a pint and waiting for all this to blow over, right? Like
exactly. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's one of the most famous scenes in that film for sure. Yeah. Was that everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
just
you said yours, didn't you, Steve? Yes.
I don't want to miss anyone. So my favorite moment in this film, I know I keep going on about it, but the setups and the payoffs in this film, I can't get enough of them. I just can't get enough of them. Quite early on in this film, Ed apologizes to Shaun, and Shaun says, "That's okay," and Ed says, "No, I'm sorry, Shaun," and gives him enough time to smell the fart that he just did.
As he's dying.
And Shaun says, "That's disgusting," and Ed says, "I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing." And then in the third act of the film, right near the end, Ed is fucked up and dying. And they have this emotional moment, and Shaun apologizes to Ed. And Ed says, "I'm sorry too." And Shaun says, that's okay. And Ed says, No, I'm sorry, Shaun. And he's done a fart. And then Ed says, "I'll stop doing them when you stop laughing again." And Shaun is crying and says, "I'm not laughing." Because he has to leave his friend behind. He has to let go of his friend. And like that moment is just so good, so emotional. And it's such a good callback to a silly joke earlier, given this new context. It's got such heavy weight to it. And then he puts a cigarette in his mouth and they put their heads together and then he leaves him to die. Man, it's good. Like this film is just off the charts good, man. So yeah, that was mine.
I can't believe none of us chose the bar scene with "Don't Stop Me Now" scene.
It feels like an easy one, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
I'm
it
surprised.
resulted in a fucking song being used and everything, and I'm like,
exactly.
I hate it now. It was in Sonic the Hedgehog, the first film, and I was like, oh, for God's sake!
Like Shaun of the Dead was kind of because Queen had like a resurgence right in the 2000s, and was this sort of pre the Queen resurgence? Like everyone went mad for Queen for a while.
So because around that time, then they got the other singer, didn't they? That guy from
Adam
American
Lambert.
Idol. That's it.
And We Will Rock You had opened at this point as well. The stage show We Will Rock You was open at this point.
Because the film closes with a Queen song as well over the credits.
Oh yeah.
You're my best friend.
So this may well have contributed to the Queen resurgence.
Something of a phenomenon, baby. Telling your body to come along, 'cause white lies blow away. Shush. Blow. Get higher, baby. Get higher, baby. Get higher, girl.
All right, so we're going to give this a score, right?
We are.
All right, let's go round. Chris, what score are you going to give Shaun of the Dead?
As this is the most British masterpiece ever done, I'm going to quote another British masterpiece that everyone should watch. Can I go up to 11 and give it one louder, please? I just want to give this one louder, an honorary one louder. Like,
So I thought you were going to reference lesbian vampire killers, but okay, you meant Spinal Tap. Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool, good.
Fucking hell. I don't know if our scoring system goes up to 11, and I know it's one louder.
It's up to 10. Can't go to 11, Chris.
Yeah, but it's one louder.
But it's one louder. Well, why don't just make 10 louder? No, but it goes up to 11. It's one louder.
Do you know what? Fuck it. Let's go one louder. Go to 11.
Hey, there you go. Fantastic. Jason, give me a number.
Yeah, you can't not give this film a 10. You can't.
Yeah, man. Top secret's quaking right now.
You just can't. I mean, you look back at this film. It's a moment of British cinema. Like it's in the same ballpark as all the great British films that have been made. and it's right up there with the rest of them. It's so influential as well, like through to now.
Name one of those British films, Jason. Go on.
Fuzz.
It came after this, didn't it? But...
Fat slags, I know.
Fucking hell.
Carry on camping.
Carry on camping. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, you got it.
There you go.
Shit, man. Oh.
Yeah, it's so influential even to now. Like we just said, like everyone still says, "Oh, we'll wait here until it all blows over," and then when you look at the film itself, it's so expertly writed, it's so well acted. No one puts a foot wrong. There's no in a lot of films you get, and like there's always a moment, or there's always a couple of moments, or there's a specific character or whatever that just irks you, or is the part of the film you don't look forward to watching, but you like the rest of it. It doesn't happen here. It is as close as to a perfect film as you're probably going to get. And Edgar Wright's direction in this film is just spectacular as well. And there was a lot of people on set that was unsure of the way that he shot a film or shoots a film. They were very uneasy about why he needed so many different shots, and it all got proven why he needed it in the editing. But just the way it's shot as well, it's a 10. You can't not.
Yeah, well said, Rich.
I mean, I feel like a prick to give it less than 10 at this point. I mean, this film is just tremendous, and I mean, in proper on reflecting, I'd say as a proper like full film, Hot Fuzz is better, but I think this is still like my favorite of the trilogy, and it's my favorite British film of all time. I mean, there's not a great history of British films, I'll be honest. I mean, Four Weddings, some Richard Curtis shit, Zulu, I don't know. But no, I love this film. Again, this kind of was the beginning of like a bit of a little zombie renaissance, and it was like an exciting 12 months of my movie-going life, and this kind of ushered it in a completely different way. It was like, wearing spaced clothes, and I was like, oh my God, this is just like everything in this big melting pot. And I was like, this is just a film made for me, and not had anything like this since. And I love it. I absolutely adore this film. And yeah, fuck it, I'll give it a 10. Why not?
Nice.
Yeah, fuck it.
I'm going to be a prick and give it a 9.9. No, just give it a 10. Whatever. It's
There's
going to
such
win.
thing as a perfect film, so it's a 9.9. No.
Yeah.
No, I agree with all of that. I think it's fucking phenomenal.
Oh, shit.
Like, just to get a bit sort of wanky about it, like as a piece of cinema, I think it's up there. It's phenomenal. You could teach the structure and the pacing and the scripting of this film in a classroom. It is a masterpiece, and I also think that it deserves a 10.
Damn.
Boom.
So Jason's going to crunch some numbers now and do a thing and tell us where that comes.
I have literally thrown the calculator away.
What's 4 times 10? It was like,
Well, in this scoring system, it's 41 because we went one louder. But yeah.
I mean, I know I'm shit at maths, but I mean, even I can fucking pull 4 tens together.
I think Jason had the scoring before anyone uttered a word anyway.
Yeah. I described it as number crunching in my notes, so I just read it out as I wrote it. But you're right. That equals 40. That puts it at the top, right? That's Shaun of the Dead is now the What's Wrong with Wolfie official seal best film ever made, right?
According to our board, that is very true, yes.
What was top again prior to this?
Jurassic Park.
Wow.
39.9.
Who gave Jurassic Park less than a 10? What arsehole was that?
That was me.
Oh,
I was that prick who gave it a 9.9.
I don't remember that.
No such thing as a perfect film.
We have The Matrix at number 3, so
that sounds about right. Yeah. So Top Secret's nowhere near the top now, is it?
It is number 4.
Okay, it's still higher up than it should be. Let's be real.
It's still above RoboCop.
Yeah, I'd have to disagree. It's like I love Top Secret with all my heart, but fucking hell.
We shouldn't have watched that first. We should have done Top Secret as a middle viewing.
We would. I don't know. Yeah, that was weird. But that's set in stone now. No going back.
No,
No going back.
It's
Officially,
cemented.
Top Secret is the 4th best film ever made, objectively.
I feel like we're the reason it's got that 4K re-release now, so which I need to get. So.
We got it out there. All right, well, that's us done for another episode. Big thanks to everyone who's listening right now. We really appreciate you. And if you'd like to support us monetarily, then you can do so over at ko-fi.com/thewolfiepod. Coffee.com? Ko-fi?
Coffee.
www. Full stop. KOFI. Full stop. COM. /The Wolfie Pot. Brian Butfield? No? Okay.
Oh, God, call now.
Anyway, if that's not right for you, then you can also support us for free by rating us on your podcast app or sharing our social posts. Any word of mouth on the show you could give us would really help others decide to listen to us.
This is really good
Call
impression.
now.
Butfield, oh my God.
Bonbons.
Bonbons.
Crispy Hoist Owl. Don't forget to also go and take a look at our website or come and join our Discord. We'd love to say hello.
Lord Mayor's Croupier. Oh, shit, man.
Pork cylinders. Links to all of this can be found in the show description. But guys, it's time for us to say goodbye.
There's a girl in the garden. In the garden, there's a girl. Bye.
Would anyone like a peanut?
Have you got red on you? Red on you.
Someone had to say that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Rich to say it, and I was like, the peanut line or that was like...
Oh, shit, man.
All that's left is for me to say that my name has been Steve, you've been listening to What's Wrong with Wolfie, and dogs can look up.
Yes.
I didn't think about that line. It's so good. It's one of my favourite lines of that whole film. Shit. Oh, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Toodle pip.